right, welcome to First and Filoni. I am Donovan Filoni as always, and this week joined with me back from work down in Georgia and work just in general in North Carolina. We have Andrew and Libby. How are you guys doing?
Good.
What's going on, dude?
All right. So it's been a while here. Didn't know if you guys had any takes so far since you guys have been on last. I'll give you guys the floor here to get any takes off before we get into our Halloween special.
What a year.
It's been kind of crazy. It's shaping up to be like 2007. I don't know if there's a dominant team as of right now. Maybe Oregon.
I was gonna say Oregon.
Yeah, but I mean, can we trust Oregon against an SEC offensive line, defensive line? That's the question, right? What about you, Libby? Any takes you got so far?
No, but just what a year. Just
I know it's a little tough for these NC State fans, but we'll go ahead and get started into some Halloween questions. So this episode is going to be a little bit Halloween themed. Um, so we got some Halloween awards to give out, or kind of just Halloween questions, and then we have a trick or treat section. So let's start with the Halloween awards. This one is a Halloween special. Can be players or coaches. Can be past or future. I was thinking more of this year, but if you have one in the past or future, all for that as well. So the first question is most likely to survive a horror film, and take it how you weigh or how you want. It can be any way, shape, or form. If you had to pick a player or coach, who do you think would be most likely to survive a horror film? And Andrew, we'll go ahead and start with you, man.
You got to go with Mario Cristobal and the freaking Miami Hurricanes at this
Okay.
point.
Is that just because of their luck that they've been having this year?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they should have two losses right
They should have three. I mean, I feel like Louisville should have beat them. I feel like who
now.
was that?
Virginia Tech
Virginia
definitely beat them.
Tech.
Virginia Tech.
That's an interesting one. I can see that. He is skating. Libby, who do you think will is most likely to survive a horror film?
I have two. One of them is no longer a coach, and one is. I had Nick Saban, because
Yeah.
it's Nick Saban. And then I had Pat Narduzzi.
So that's
Why?
an interesting one. I like that one.
Why? He just kind of scares me.
Oh,
That's why.
I was thinking because they've had Pitt has been like the comeback
They
kids
have
this
been,
year.
yeah.
So they've been making a lot of comebacks, a little late end surprises to kind of survive here. That's interesting. You guys all went with coaches. This one was really tough for me to even kind of think of. But to be honest with you, like the first person I thought of is an older, it's two older players, and I guess I'll just go with them. It's gonna be Mike Vick and Tim Tebow, and for two different reasons. Mike Vick because of his speed and his game changing ability. Been able to pretty much outrun anybody that he'd want to do or anybody he would come up against, and then Tim Tebow because how religious he is and how much of a leader he is. Seems to be able to lead a group of people to be able to stop one of the serial killers or ghosts or what have you there. So those would be my most likely to survive the horror film. Next one, kind of on the opposite side of that, who is most likely to be a villain in a horror film? And I'll go ahead and get this one started because I kind of had a whole team, and it was the Purdue Spoilermakers. Because typically Purdue, not a great football team, but they are always in for a good win against a top 10 opponent just out of nowhere. I'm mainly thinking of like Iowa or like Ohio State. But if I had to pick if I had to pick an actual player or coach, it'd be Kirby Smart. One, he's already pushed a kid this season. That's kind of going off the deep end, and also his team has had countless arrests for car violations like speeding, and we all know what happened, 2 years ago. That's a sad story, but for football wise, if the villain always has a scary good defense, always knows how to lead his minions to battle, and Kirby Smart seems to check all those boxes there. Andrew, who you got for villain?
I actually went with a team and a coach as well. As far as a team go, I got to go Vanderbilt.
This year, definitely.
100% this year. And honestly, if I had to pick a coach that I think would be a villain, me and Libby actually talked about this last Saturday.
Oh
I got to
Lord,
go with
please don't tell me
Kirsten.
you have it because you picked the same two things I have.
I definitely got to go Kirsten Signetti.
That's who I have.
Signetti. I love Kurt Signetti though. He is ruining a lot of seasons, so he is a villain. So Libby, is that who you had as well as Signetti and Vandy?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean those are solid picks. I didn't even think about them that way. A question I have here that we can kind of go off of there. Signetti's having a great season at Iowa. He is what 63 now, 62, 63. Do you think he's going to get a bigger
In
opportunity next year
Indiana,
with what he's done?
he might get offered something, but I think he's going to stay
I
where he's at.
I think he's gonna stay at Indiana.
So if he stays though, does that make Indiana a top contender in the Big Ten going forward?
I would think so if he doesn't have a fall
Yeah,
off after this year.
Yeah, I think so as
I
well.
would.
We were watching game day last weekend at Indiana, and I didn't realize how nice that football stadium actually was. And if he can actually get some fans into that stadium, I mean, Indiana's not traditionally a football school, but he's not
He's got
recruiting
them in there now. They've
traditional
been
four or
sold
five
out.
stars
They've been
either.
they've been sold out the last 4 weeks, so he's getting them in there. If he can
He's
just
getting them in
keep
there
them in
now.
there and keep it,
Just keeping him there.
And the Colts aren't doing
and I think
anything,
they
so
said
Indiana's a great place
I
to
think
have
they
football, right?
I think they said on game day that the whole rest of the year all games are sold out.
That's
Are they?
crazy.
Yeah, I'm
That's
pretty sure
that's
that's
just
what they
crazy
said.
to me. The quick turnaround he had. I mean, we knew JMU was good last year with what he's done, but I think Curtis Rourke kind of puts him over the top when he's playing. But even the backup played well last week. All right, next question
Especially against a
here,
very good
Halloween
underrated draft team.
version. This one is kind of fun, and take this. You can take this multitude of ways, whether it be historic or crowd atmosphere. And I'm interested to see where you guys said. So the most haunted stadium in college football. Libby, we'll go ahead and have you start this one off. What do you have for the most haunted stadium in college football?
So I just kind of Googled and I had a good one, Notre Dame, just because of that. What was that guy's name? The
Rudy?
ghost of, yeah, Grip or whatever, Gip
Okay.
and all
That's
that.
so you went with the historic version of it. I
Yeah,
like that.
with the
Like that's
historic
interesting. I
version.
can see that. And
And
a
with
lot
the
of
touchdown
people
Jesus and all that.
Yeah, no, that's a good
So,
point. And a lot of people do say Notre Dame Stadium is haunted because of all the success they've had in the past and
yeah.
50s, 60s, 70s, 40s, 80s even. So that's a good pick. Andrew, what do you have? We probably have the
Well,
same ones.
since Libby took my historic one,
You're welcome.
I actually got three, and this is just going off of this year. Um, if I had to pick three haunted ones this year that I would really not want to play in, I definitely got to go Neyland, Kyle
Yep.
Field, and Austin
It's a good
Stadium.
one.
So Austin Stadium, you mean like for Texas? That's interesting because Georgia came in there.
No, I'm talking about Oregon.
Oh,
And
oh,
there's
oh, I
Austin.
misheard you. Yeah, yeah, oh, for sure. Those are interesting. So Neyland and Kyle Field. Kyle Field is one of like the loudest stadiums, supposedly, and so is Oregon. But Oregon only has what 60,000 seats in it, but supposedly it's like the loudest stadium in college football. So I like that version of it as well. I kind of went on like that same type of thinking too. Neyland was one of them, and then Death Valley, LSU.
Which,
Um,
okay.
when you think about this question, like I said, I take into account two different things: history and stadium atmosphere, and I think both of them kind of check both boxes. Tennessee has had some great teams. LSU's had some historic teams, and then
Hmm.
playing at either one of those stadiums at night, no matter how bad they are, like that's a recipe for disaster for the other team. You just don't go into LSU or you don't go into Tennessee and win easily at night. So those are the two that I had as well. And then the final Halloween question that we had here is, what ghost of the past would you like to see in the game today? Like I said, you can take it however you want to take it. I'll go first because I had two different options. My first option would be Peyton Manning. I would love to see Peyton Manning run a Josh Heupel's offense with this Tennessee defense that they had. I feel like they would just be unstoppable because Tennessee has the offensive weapons. They got a running game. They got great receivers. Nico just hasn't lived up to expectations. I mean, he's only a sophomore, redshirt freshman, but like he just hasn't lived up to that. And then the second one is a multitude of people, but anybody from that 2000 2001 Miami defense because Miami's defense is garbage. And if they had somebody to lead that defense, like Sean Taylor, Ray Lewis, Jonathan Vilma, like any of those players, like could you imagine those players on how good that offense is for Miami? How unstoppable that team would be.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, what do you have as Ghost of the Past?
I actually got like I don't want to make Libby mad because I'm staying home with at least two of them, but I picked
Oh
four
my
that really
gosh.
stood out more to me. And two of them are homer picks, so Libby's probably gonna be a little frustrated.
Let's hear it.
I wanna for the first homer pick, I go with my boy Philip Rivers.
God knows.
I
I
was
definitely
wondering
would
if he
like
was going to come up.
him and Nate Irvin for sure. I'd love to have Nate Irvin back on the defensive side of the ball, man. Good
What about
God, he
Peyton?
definitely. Dude, Peyton was good, but Nate Irvin was a dog. And then I had two more. One's actually a coach, but I would love to see Tavon Austin back in the West Virginia.
Didn't even think about that one. That's the winner right there.
If I could see Tavon Austin for another year in a high-powered West Virginia offense, especially in today's game, I mean, he just always electrified it.
You can
And
go three of them. You can go Steve Slayton, Pat White, Tavon Austin. If all three of them were back, like
100%, nobody's stopping that offense at all. And then I actually went with a coach from my last one, man. I miss old Bobby Bowden at FSU.
That was a good one. That was a
yeah,
good one.
those are all solid picks. Honestly, I didn't even think about Tavon Austin, like the human highlight reel, right? Like he was so good. And then Pat White, I always rave about him as being an underrated quarterback for what he was. Those are great picks. All right, Libby, which NC State goes to the pass are we going to see now?
I got three state ones. And then I
I
have
bet
one
Drake
from Mark.
Thomas is one.
So I got Philip Rivers,
Yep.
but with Jericho Cotchery.
Yep, that was going to be a name that I was
Those
going to put out
two.
there was with Jericho.
Uh-huh. Those two together. And then
Corey
I
Holt.
never got to see him play, but I would have loved to. Our number one overall draft pick, Mario Williams.
Yeah.
I would have loved to seen him play. And then Mark has one. Mark said he would like to see Barry Sanders.
Oh, yeah. I
Short,
mean,
stocky running back, bouncing off everybody. Dad said just one of the best
the
running backs.
season he had in 1988, like that's before my time, but like I still watch clips of it and he looks like he's playing in 2024. Like
Yeah.
it's just that's just insane. And it's kind of crazy that Ashton Genty's even coming close to those numbers. Like numbers that we thought would never be touched. Now, do I think he's going to get them right now with the game that he had last week? I don't think so anymore, but still fun. But yeah, Barry Sanders would be good. I don't know about on Oklahoma State though. Like if you put him into like a Oregon or like I mean Texas since they've lost like three of their running backs, Ricky Williams would have been a good pick for Texas. That would have been a solid pick, or Adrian Peterson, I guess, for Oklahoma. So many
You
that you
got
could have
Reggie
gone.
Bush.
Reggie
Reggie
Bush.
Bush in that
Oh,
lineup.
yeah.
I mean,
Dennis,
honestly,
the
Manti
old
Te'o for
Dennis.
Notre Dame, like,
Oh, nah, he's well. That's the problem. He's still looking for his girlfriend.
well, yeah,
I mean, you
okay.
Oh,
still got
Lord.
I
That's
mean,
why
what
I
about
didn't
Dennis?
put him on there, but I mean,
What
he'd
about
still be an interesting option for sure.
who was it Dennis Dixon for Oregon, and who was that running back? Was it
Um,
Eugene?
LaMichael
The real
James,
short, the Michael James. Yes.
yeah, that team was nasty too because that was before Mariota's time. Dennis Dixon, LaMichael James. There was another one that was like a receiver, played for Kansas City for a little. DeAnthony Thomas. Played for Kansas City for a
Yep.
little bit. Yeah, like that. Those have been fun people to watch as well, on the same level as like the Steve Slayton, Pat White, Tavon Austin for sure.
Damn, Libby,
Uh,
I'm surprised you didn't pick old Corey Holt.
yeah. I mean, you
I
guys could.
mean, yeah, but I don't see him play either.
You guys could have also
I did
said,
I did
Wow.
see Philip and Jericho though. I may have been like 6, but I was there.
I was gonna say, were you even old
Yeah,
enough
I
to
do
remember
remember.
at that point?
So
All right, we'll move on to our next game here. Next game is going to be a trick or treat section. So for trick or treat section, it's kind of like a fair or foul type section. Trick being, you don't think it's going to happen. Treat thinking you do think it's going to happen. So we got 4 questions here, and kind of just talk about your answers through. So the first one is 4 or more SEC teams in the playoffs. So trick or treat, Libby, what do you have?
treat because I can see it happening. I can see 4 teams in.
Do you want to give a prediction on which 4?
Mm,
Because I think there's
Texas,
about 6 that you can have.
Texas,
Yeah,
Georgia.
yeah.
I'm blanking. Give me a second.
Texas
Tennessee,
A&M,
Tennessee.
Texas A&M.
A&M.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Right
and
now, A&M's undefeated in the SEC.
yeah, I know. I didn't pick them last week, but I know.
Yeah, Andrew and I actually went undefeated last week with our picks.
Yeah,
But
I heard.
all right, Andrew, trick or treat. 4 or more teams in the SEC playoffs.
I'm going treat.
Yeah, I think we're all on treat on this one. Like I said, I think Texas, Georgia, A&M, Bama, LSU, Tennessee, even Ole Miss, if they can win out, I think has a shot at it. But out of those, do I really like honestly which 4? If I had to pick 4, it'd be Texas, Georgia, A&M, and Tennessee, I think. Um, be interesting to see what happens. And then next question, same thing. 4 or more Big Ten teams in the playoff. Andrew, we'll start with you.
Correct.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm going on
Think
trick. I
so.
can only see 2 of
'Cause
them,
you gotta think.
I
maybe
see
3.
Yeah,
two.
I can see two, maybe three, but I think the
Who's the
deciding
third
factor
one?
to that is going to be the Ohio State Penn State game this weekend. That's going to
Yeah,
Mm,
decide
I have
whether or
3,
not.
and then 4 if Indiana wins, I have 4. But it's 3. It's Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State.
Yeah.
Libby, are you on the same page with us?
I'm on the same page.
Yeah.
I
I
only
don't
had
say
about two,
it's
but
I had high hopes for potentially USC this season, but I think there is in Iowa they've had sparks on their offense, but I don't see it. And I think the Big 12 and the ACC can mess around and have their undefeated teams lose in a conference game and have 2 people in, which will take up spots as well. So, next one is trick or treat, non-quarterback winning the Heisman. Libby, what do you have? Trick or treat.
I wanted to say treat. I'll stick with treat.
So you think a non-quarterback's going to win the Heisman?
I think they could.
All right.
Could.
Which one? Who are you thinking?
The Boise State, but
Genty?
yeah.
Okay. Andrew, trick or treat, a non-quarterback winning the Heisman.
I don't know. That's probably one of the toughest. I got to go treat, man. I think this year, other than right now, I mean, we were high on Ewers struggling.
Yeah.
Milrow, I think he's out of it, struggling.
Mhm.
Travis
All
Hunter.
right.
Travis Hunter's in it.
Yeah.
You got Travis Hunter for sure. And I mean, regardless of who Boise State beating, you can't leave Ashton Genty out of the top running right now. There's no quarterback, I think, other than Dylan Gabriel. But then
Cam
again, you're
Moore.
going to find out Cam Moore too. But I mean, if they lose, to me, if they lose one game, they're going to go back and look at like, okay, he should have lost here, should have lost there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those are valid points. I'm actually gonna go the opposite of both of you guys. I think it's gonna be a trick. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a quarterback just because it has been quarterback award. I think what's gonna happen is we're gonna look up and we're gonna see an undefeated Miami and an undefeated Oregon, and then we're gonna look at the 2 quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward, are having great seasons. Even though Dylan Gabriel's a check down artist. Um, I think just because of that, and I think Genty is hurt. like if he has one more less than 150-yard game, like I think he's out, and that's horrible to say because he's already surpassed many Heisman running back seasons. And I think what Travis Hunter's doing is out of this world, right? He's playing both sides of the ball. He played like 140 snaps last week or something crazy. He's the only player to win Big 12 offensive and defensive player of the week uh in the same season. Um I think if he can keep it up, it's his to lose, but they still have 5 or 6 games left, not including the potential championship game. The knock on him was he going to be playing meaningful football? And Colorado is really good this year. So if he can stay healthy, I think it's Travis Hunter's. But I think just historically how it's done, we're going to look up on championship weekend, and you're going to see Miami and Oregon there, and the quarterbacks are going to like lead the way. And unless there's a slip up, I think it's probably going to be one of them. As much as I'd want Ashton Genty or Travis Hunter to win it. And then a final trick or treat here. Trick or treat, Indiana going undefeated this season. What say you, Andrew? Trick or treat?
I didn't have really enough time to look into this. What is their remaining schedule?
I'm trying to
Um,
find
Do
that
you have
now.
that handy?
so I know that they play Michigan State this weekend. I know that they play Ohio State. So they got Michigan State this weekend. They got Michigan November 9th. They got I'm sorry, at Michigan State this weekend, home versus Michigan November 9th, at Ohio State November 23rd, and then home versus Purdue November 30th. So really, it's do you think they can beat Ohio State? Because I think they can beat everybody else.
I could see them stumbling to Michigan and Ohio State, honestly.
Oh, both.
Yeah.
Interesting. Libby, what do you say? Trick or treat?
I'm gonna say trick just because I sense an upset coming with somebody with
Okay.
them.
Are you probably on the same lines as Michigan then? They think it's going to
That
be them.
or Ohio State.
Yeah. So I think so as well. As fun as it would be, I think Ohio State will just out athlete Indiana at this point. Kind of like what they did. Indiana blew the brakes off Nebraska, and Ohio State barely beat Nebraska. We can't really look at it like that because I think Ohio State was just kind of coasting until the fourth quarter. Then they realized, oh wait, we might lose this. Let's just athlete take over and win this game, right? Um, I do think they have a shot versus Ohio State because I don't see anything like crazy good about them. But I have to say trick here because Ohio State was my national championship winner, I believe. I can't remember if I picked Ohio State or Georgia. Either way, they're in the final, and I have to kind of stay true to that. But it would be fun to kind of see that going forward if that were the case. Okay, so let's get into the recap of last week. Records, like I already mentioned here before, Andrew and I both went 10-0 last week, bringing records up to Andrew is 60-35. I'm 66-29. The Locks had a bad week. We're 51-44, so still in the positive, but just barely. Libby, do you have your record offhand?
Last
You
week
were
I went
beating it.
6-4, so
You said what?
last week I went 6-4, so
I
I'm
know
not doing too good anymore.
you were beating us early in the season, and I know you were really happy about that. So,
I
let's go
don't
ahead.
remember what my full record is. I'll have to find that later.
No worries. Let's go ahead and get into the player of the week. So, Libby, do you have a player of the week from last week?
Somebody else go first.
Okay, I'll go first, and it's not a player; it's a coach. I have Kurt Signetti. We've talked about him quite a bit, but he's the coaching job that he's done all year. The coaching job he did last week with a backup quarterback in that defense. Everybody's talking about their offense and how good it is. If you watch that defense play, they're all over the field. They're not giving up big plays. Like they're suffocating teams. And Washington's not a bad team, even though they'd lost a lot of people. Uh, they were just all over Washington. Rodgers couldn't throw the ball. Like it was all it was crazy. So it was just a masterful coaching job by Signetti. So he's my technical player of the week. Andrew, who do you got?
Got to go with my boy Georgia Smart and the whole entire Georgia offensive and defensive staff.
Yeah, they look unstoppable right now.
They look like the team that we expected to see all year.
So does their lack of a rushing attack kind of scare you though? Because they're like
Yes,
94th in rushing in the nation.
yes. And I told Libby this last weekend. Quote me if I'm wrong, Libby. I told her, I said, when you can run the ball, it opens up your whole offensive playbook. When you
Mm-hmm.
have to rely on the pass, that's where Georgia struggles.
Yeah. I think their defense is finally getting
Carson
healthy, and
Beck,
that's what we're seeing. But I agree. If you can't run the ball, I mean, Carson Beck's been throwing for like 400 yards a game almost at this point, and he can't
yeah,
do
but I
that
mean,
all
he's
himself.
throwing 60 times a freaking game.
Right. So I worry about that. I worry that the rushing attack, like Texas didn't do their job on defense, but versus like Ohio State versus an Oregon in the playoff versus a Penn State in the playoff, like that those defense aren't going to give up rushing yards. Like Texas A&M even is not going to give up rushing yards. Like I worry that they're going to run into a buzzsaw there, and then especially Texas A&M. If we look at them, Nick Scorton, like he's having a phenomenal year, and Texas A&M goes ahead, and then they have to start throwing the ball. He's just going to be all over Carson Beck. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, so do you have a player of the week now?
Um, y'all gonna hate me, but I really didn't do this one, so we're just gonna go with CJ Bailey.
Okay. Is he finally coming into form a little bit as a freshman quarterback?
Yeah, he did pass for about 300 yards or something, and then completed 25 of 30 something passes, 36 passes, something like that. So I'd say, yeah, he's doing pretty good.
Let's hope the transfer
Well,
portal doesn't hurt him, right?
What?
considering the news of Grayson McCall, I thought he did pretty damn well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, winners of the week. I only have one. It's the Oregon fans because Oregon seems to be like the only true quote quote dominant team, even though that Ohio State game was a close one. Um, Ohio State and Texas both played again tight games, although Vandy a little bit tougher competition than Nebraska. Georgia seems to be was off to a slow start, but now they seem to be rolling. So maybe Georgia as well, but Oregon undefeated. I think they have the potential to go undefeated and be interesting in the Big Ten championship game. Who they'll get: Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State again. Winner of the week, Andrew.
Winner of the week for me, man. I got to go Mike Elko.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he has turned Texas
There's
A&M
something
around completely.
Mm-hmm.
something about a big old boy like him coaching down there in the deep south in the oil fields and having a pretty rough first half coming back and winning that game, man.
How about
That was
Marcel Reed coming in there and getting three touchdowns in what, a quarter and a half?
something,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, Livy, what you got? Winner of the
Well,
week.
mine was A&M as a whole coming
Yeah.
back to win it.
Did you guys expect A&M to be this good this quick? I know a lot of the players are still from the
No,
Jimbo era and
No.
Jimbo can recruit, but did you expect Elko,
no,
granted he is a better X's and O coach, to be right where he's at this point?
no.
No. You know what this kind of reminds me of, though? It kind of reminds me of like Manziel's first year when they were on that tear
Yeah.
Mm.
with Kevin Sumlin.
I'd be interested to see it going forward. I think Elko's the right guy, but he's got to get an offensive coordinator in there. They've got to figure out if Wegman or Reed is going to be the guy going forward, and then see what happens recruiting wise. The NIL era favors Texas A&M, but we'll see what happens because they have not won a national title in a long, long, long time. All right,
Join the
and
club.
then losers of the week. Andrew, who you have for your loser of the week?
Uh, Loser of the week. I want to say Texas, but I'm not.
I don't think you can
I
count
kind of
them,
want to
even though
go with
Vandy's not a great team.
uh
And that game was
I
closer
don't
in the
really
box
know.
score than what it actually was, too.
I mean, I don't want to keep saying the same one week in and week out because I
Who's
truly
that?
don't know what's happened.
Florida
Florida
State.
I mean,
State.
Florida State.
That's mine. And
Yeah,
Duke. I was really disappointed with Duke.
I wasn't. I knew that was coming.
Not
I don't
me.
know, man. I was,
SMU should have blown Duke out.
Mm, I still
yeah,
have high
100%.
hopes for Duke.
I don't
It
know.
took
Come
them
back
into
to me. I'm still thinking.
overtime, so
Yeah. All right. Well, my loser of the week I had was Michigan State. The way that they fumbled the ball against Michigan, like a down bad Michigan, it was just, I'm a big Jonathan Smith guy. Like, I think he's a great coach. I think going forward, Michigan State is going to be okay. But he got out coached this weekend by a horrible coach in Sharon Moore. Like, bad miscues, going for an onside kick when you're up right before the half to give Michigan another chance to score. You know, a bunch of other things. Like they should have won, they didn't win. Michigan State, this was your opportunity after years and years and years of heartbreak to win that game, and you didn't. Um, and Libby,
Oh, I got
losers
who
of the
mine
week.
is.
Oh, go ahead,
what?
Andrew.
Well, I meant to write it down, but I totally forgot. I went with Liberty.
No.
Yeah,
How do
congrats to
you,
Kennesaw State. That could
how
be
do
another
you,
winner, right?
how do you lose to Kennesaw State?
First year in the FBS.
Good for them.
Yep. All right, Libby, do you have a loser of the week?
I already said mine.
Oh, sorry. It's been a long day, guys. Okay, so let's go ahead
It
and
has been.
get into the game picks here. We have 10 games. Um, hopefully a little bit better. We have a lot closer spreads this week, so it might not be as winning as we have been. Um, we'll start with the largest. What is it? The largest cocktail party. Florida versus Georgia in Jacksonville. Georgia's favored by 16 and a half points. Libby, who you got?
Go dogs.
Andrew?
Give me Kirby Smart and the dog.
I'm gonna go with Georgia as well, but I think there is potential for upset the way that Florida's
Oh,
defense has been playing.
ooh,
But this is also a great
traitor,
opportunity, huh? This is also a great opportunity
traitor.
for uh, Georgia to get their run game going because
Mm-hmm.
Florida's run defense is like 89th in the country, and then but their passing defense is good. We'll see revenge game for Travis Etienne. We'll see what happens there, but I have Florida or Georgia winning, Florida covering. Next game we have here is Ohio State at Penn State, probably going to be game of the weekend, contender for game of the year. Ohio State's favored by 3. Do you think this year is the year that Penn State gets and James Franklin go over the hump versus Ohio State? Libby, who you got?
Hmm. I got Penn State home
Ooh,
field.
good choice.
Even with Aller being hurt potentially?
Yeah.
Andrew, do you have Penn State as well?
Oh man, I got Ohio State. They got Ryan Day. He knows how to win the big game when it counts. And unfortunately, Aller really has not impressed me the last couple weeks before he got hurt. I felt like he was struggling against some pretty decent defenses.
So I'm gonna side with Livy on this one. I think it's Penn State
Oh.
again. I was high on Drew Aller last year. He's had some decent games, but Andrew's right. He struggled against some lesser defenses as well. I think this is the best Penn State team that James Franklin has ever had. The key to this game is can they run the ball like they
All right,
did
but let me
last week
ask you
when their
this.
backup comes in?
Mm.
Let me ask this. Does James Franklin need to win this game?
No. No, I don't think he does because he's going to make the playoff regardless if he wins this or loses it.
True.
Unless he loses like another
Another.
game during the season.
Yeah.
If he makes the playoff, he's fine.
Well, I will say this. If this was a night game, I'm
Right.
definitely going Penn State, but it's
So they
you know,
have the stupid rules about being a whiteout in the night games because of like the potential for winter weather in Happy Valley in November. So that's why it isn't. And it's really, really frustrating because I agree. Imagine a whiteout in November, like
Night.
this is like a potential big spot for that. Okay, next game is Ole Miss at Arkansas. Ole Miss seem to score on every first drive they have and then struggle on offense for the rest of the game. Ole Miss is favored by 7. I have no idea which Arkansas team we're going to see. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss here. I think Lane Kiffin gets this win, keeps the hopes alive before he comes to uh, Gainesville next year and is the head coach of Florida. Andrew, who you got?
I got Ole Miss. I got Lane Kiffin.
Libby, who you got?
I got Lane Kiffin in the ribs too.
I hear you laughing at my recruiting efforts here. Don't laugh at my recruiting efforts. I'm tired of seeing old Billy Napier. Um, Next game is Minnesota at Illinois. Minnesota had a great game last week, and they've
Better pray
actually
he
seemingly
loses.
had a good season. Illinois just I think they just are what they are. Even though I'm a big fan of Coach Bielema, Minnesota is favored by 3. I think they win by 7. Give me Minnesota.
Hmm.
Andrew, who you got?
I gotta go with PJ Fleck, man.
This is a spot where PJ Fleck always loses, though.
Yeah, I know, but something about it. I gotta go row the boat on this one.
Yeah, Libby, you gonna join us?
I
Give me the
went
Gophers. Yeah.
I went Illinois.
Illinois. You went the big boy, Brett Bielema. Nothing wrong with that.
Good pick.
Big fan of him there, and I think Illinois is good, but I Minnesota's too good at running the ball right now. Texas A&M at South Carolina, sneaky good game this weekend. Texas A&M going into Williams-Brice Stadium. A&M's only favored by 2.5. It's not Cocktober anymore, but I still think Williams-Brice Stadium's going to be popping. Give me South Carolina with the upset here.
Really?
Yeah, I think Lenore Sellers is going to have a day running the ball, and I don't think that Texas A&M is going to be able to run the ball on South Carolina's defensive line. Dylan Stewart coming off the edge, especially if they play Connor Wegman. No thanks.
Yeah.
Andrew, who you got?
I don't know. It was a tough one. I hate to go against
It
Elko,
was
but
tough.
something
Yeah,
the way that South Carolina played against uh, Georgia, they've
yep,
lost some really close games against, especially Bama. I'm thinking
Yeah.
old Beamer ball, and you got to remember what Pat McAfee said. It's the only place you can say Cox, so give me the Gamecocks.
yep.
Oh my God.
Special teams could win this game too. Yeah, Beamer ball. All right, Libby, who you got?
It was tough, but I like South Carolina at home.
See, this is where everybody's picking South Carolina again, and like even like on like the college football shows I listen to, a lot of people are like, "Watch out, watch out." A&M could win by 50 here, but also South Carolina can win by 20. So like, who knows?
I know.
Next game is Louisville at Clemson. This should have been a better game than what it is. But Louisville's just fumbled the bag the last couple of weeks. Tyler Shuck is just not doing it, and they don't have a dominant run game anymore like they did last year. Clemson favored by 10.5. I think this is an easy one. Clemson wins big. Dabo keeps daboing, and all the way to versus Miami in the ACC championship game.
Um,
Clemson all around.
yeah, unfortunately.
Bingo.
All right. Next game, Wisconsin at Iowa. Wisconsin played Penn State tough. They've actually been rolling with their backup quarterback ever since Van Dyke went down. Iowa's favored by 3. Iowa had a little bit of a spark with the backup quarterback coming in after McNamara is finally done. I think he got hurt. Who you have this week? Iowa or Wisconsin? Libby, we'll go ahead and start with you.
I went Iowa.
Trusting the home field advantage there. Andrew, who you got?
Yep.
I'm going Wisconsin.
I'm going with Wisconsin
I
as
like how
well.
they.
I think Wisconsin
I
showed me
like how
something the
they
last two
played.
weeks that they've been so
Yeah.
good. I think what's his name? Luke Fickle's finally got something going up there. I don't know if it'll last because it's going to get cold, but he's finally got something going up there. And I don't trust Iowa's offense. Pitt at SMU, the battles of the undefeated in the ACC. Pitt, what a performance against your boy Kyle McCord, Andrew. 3 pick sixes and 4 interceptions all together. SMU is favored by 7.5. Do you have SMU winning this, or is Eli Holstein and Pat Narduzzi, Libby's boy, gonna come back and win?
I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I mean, both teams are really good, but
They are.
the way that I saw Pitt last week disguise their defense against a
Yeah,
pretty good Kyle McCord, I mean, he's not a joke. And you got Holstein back there.
he's
They can
another
run the
redshirt
ball. They can throw
freshman.
the ball. Yeah, I got Pitt in this one. I think they go into Southern Methodist University and they steal a win.
Mm. Libby, you going Pitt as well?
I got Pitt.
I'm going SMU. I think last week they had 6 turnovers and Duke couldn't capitalize. I think luck's just on their side. I think we're all remembering the horrible Nevada game that they had earlier this year and then the loss to BYU. I give me SMU here. I think what's his name? Jennings is just gonna go crazy in Dallas this weekend. Oregon at Michigan. This one should be a lot better than it was as well. Oregon's only favored by 14.5 points. It is at the big house, so Michigan does have that advantage. But I think Oregon wins this and wins this pretty handily, 35 nothing maybe. I can see Jack
Mhm.
Tuttle retired for Michigan, so they don't have that quarterback. I think they're back with Warren Davis or Davis Warren or whatever his name is. You got 2 first names, I don't know. Um, so I'm going Oregon here. Libby, who you got? You got Oregon as well?
I got Oregon.
Andrew, you too?
No, I got Michigan. No, I'm just kidding. I got the Ducks.
If you pick
I got
Michigan, I'd be
Gordon.
like, wondering what's going on over there, buddy.
I got Gordon. I got Gordon Bombay and the boys.
Yeah, that's Minnesota.
Oh yeah. Well, still they're the Ducks.
Yeah.
No.
All right, and then the last game, Vandy at
Give
Auburn.
me District 5.
Auburn is 7 point favorites. Favorites. If they didn't have the turnover issues they have, they might actually have a decent record. But Vandy just seems to be getting disrespected left and right, left and right. Diego Pavia struggled last week. Do you think that changes, Andrew? Do you think Vandy beats Auburn, or does Auburn take the victory?
No, Auburn's been struggling. I think they're on a downhill spiral. I think Vandy's QB ran into a pretty good defense,
Hmm.
and they kind of tested him a little bit. But I think he bounces back this weekend. I got to go Vandy.
Yeah. Libby, who you got?
I think Vandy bounces back. I got Vandy.
I do as well. So if Vandy wins, is that it for Hugh Freeze at Auburn?
No,
Hmm.
No, it's year 3 or 2.
no.
Year 2.
I see it
I
too.
guess his recruiting is going to save him, right? Because you just got that 5-star or 4-star quarterback.
Probably. Yeah.
All right.
I can tell you
So
what he should do.
say what?
I can tell you what he should do. Go back to the old days, get a few strippers.
Yeah, strippers and hookers, right? Yeah. We'll see there. Okay, last week we had a little bit of slide for gambling picks, so I'm gonna run through 10 more and kind of just let me know if you disagree with any. Tennessee goes to Kentucky. Tennessee's 15.5 point favorites, and I think they win by more than that. I don't know what's going on with Kentucky, but that defense is gonna swallow Kentucky up. If Florida can do it, Tennessee can do it. TCU Baylor. Baylor's favored by 2.5 points, and I have no idea why. I think this is going to be shootouts, but give me TCU plus 2.5. Northwestern versus Purdue. Northwestern's favored by 1 point. I don't know why it's this close. Northwestern's actually not having a horrible, horrible season. I think they win by at least a field goal. Miami versus Duke. Miami is 20 point favorites, 20.5 point favorites. Give me Miami. I think Manny Diaz is not going to get his revenge, unfortunately. Um, Penn State versus Ohio State. I already have Penn State winning outright, so give me Penn State plus 3. Wisconsin versus Iowa, same thing. Wisconsin plus 3. Louisville versus Clemson. I already said I don't think Louisville's all that great. I think Clemson's defense is amazing, and I think Klubnik actually has found something. Give me Clemson minus 10.5. Indiana versus Michigan State. Indiana's favored by 8 points after the fumble that Jonathan Smith had last week with Michigan State. And Aiden Childs is having a good year for a freshman. I think he's going to need another year or two to get everybody in place. Give me Indiana minus 8. And then two games here. We'll start off. Never really bet on the Service Academy, but the next two games I am. Army versus Air Force. Army is favored by 22 and a half points. They look really, really good this year. Give me Army minus 22 and a half. And then, Andrew, do you remember from the last couple of years what the number one rule in college football is? You never lose to food. Give me Navy
Yeah,
over Rice. Navy
Rice.
minus 11 and a half. Do you guys have any comments on any of those?
No, I
No.
don't.
All right, here. So players to watch this week, and then we'll get out of here. Player to watch this week. Andrew, you want to go ahead and get us started with players to watch?
Yeah, I got a player and a team. For my players to watch, one with Eli Holstein against SMU's defense.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It's going to be 8 o'clock on prime time on the ACC network. Then I know I picked South Carolina, but I want to see how Texas A&M does in a very hostile environment outside of Kyle Field at Williams-Brice. So that would be my team, I think, to watch this week. I think that game's going to be more shocking than what people think.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be a shootout or a defensive struggle?
I think, honestly, man, it's you're going to find out in the first two series apiece. I
Yeah.
mean, it's one of those games where it's either going to be a shootout or it's going to be a defensive special teams game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm thinking like a
But
17-14, honestly.
I feel like Beamer really needs to win this to keep him there for another 3 or 4 years, honestly.
That's an interesting take because you're not the first person that has said that. I think he's recruited at such a high level that that might keep him there, but I think South Carolina might be getting tired of that. So I tend to be leaning more towards you each week. Libby, who do you have as a player to watch this week?
I just have two teams.
Okay.
I got Vandy to watch, and
Yep.
then I got South Carolina against A&M just because it's
Yeah.
at home and everything.
Yeah, I want to see if Diego Pavia can kind of bounce back after the game he had last week against Auburn. I
Mm-hmm.
think this game is like setting up for a huge Vandy victory, but we'll see. My player to watch this week is kind of a matchup. It's Will Howard versus Drew Aller. Which quarterback is going to take that step to go forward, right? Um, and even just Penn State in general, can they get over the hump? Can James Franklin beat one of the boogeymen that are in his closet in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Um, their backup quarterback is actually pretty good as well, and that's more of the Penn State style quarterback. So I'm not worried about that. It's more of for Penn State, can they establish the running game like they did last week for the first time all year? If Drew Hour is healthy, I think that gives Penn State the big advantage because he has a better arm and obviously, more years experience. And then Will Howard, he was so good 2 years ago at Kansas State. Obviously, lost his job last year at Kansas State for Avery Johnson. Um, can he step up because he has not looked really great all year, where your typical Ohio State quarterbacks kind of take over the game. So that's kind of the matchup I want to see. We'll see what happens. All right, well that's our Halloween special here this week. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you everybody at home for listening to me on my solo episodes for 3 weeks in a row. Um, as always, send us in some more questions and topics to kind of discuss, and we will see you guys next week.